Hello, everyone. Welcome to Random Encounter 311 or 311. My name is Jono Logan, and it's been 5 days since gaming's biggest night of 2024. We are recording this on Friday night, which was the night after the 2024 Game Awards. And honestly, I thought it was a remarkably good show this year. They really seem to have learned the lessons of years past, and they fixed many of the problems that plagued the Game Awards in 2022 that they tried to fix in 2023 and screwed up and made things worse. It was a good show. It was entertaining. There were good reveals. There were some very good award winners. And there was a sense of self-awareness to the awards this year that I really, really appreciated. I mean, with the help of the Muppets, they just made fun of them. So I thought it was a genuinely entertaining, if occasionally hokey award show, with some spectacular surprises and game announcements that got me right out of my seat. So this episode of Random Encounter, we're going to be spending the episode chatting about some of the winners and the big reveals of the thing. It's not going to be an exhaustive account of the Game Awards because, frankly, if you want that, just watch them. Watch them 2x speed. If they you can just blast straight through them. That's great. So joining me today is our news manager, Gio.
Hello.
Tin is also with us.
Hi.
And Claton.
There you go.
So real quick before we go into the actual award winners, what did each of you think about the Game Awards this year?
Well, for me, it was one of the stronger ones. I've watched like the last 6 or so live, and this was like the most consistently engaging one in terms of announcement. I think they really tried hard to bring, a range of announcements that would interest a wider range of people than, I don't know, it felt like the last few years have been just a string of like MMOs and battle royales or something, or something. It felt a bit more generic in the years past. So the awards show this year was actually a lot more interesting, and also the games that were like competing for like awards were like a bit. I was a bit more invested because of the nature of the site. It's mostly RPGs, so
a lot of RPGs this year.
Yeah.
For me, I think this is also one of the best shows Jeff has given to us, but in the sense of reveals as well, and even structuring. But at the same time, the awarding part still needs a lot of work. Like I think some genres still needed more time, but instead they gave it like a slot for Netflix for Squid Game or something. So yeah, I think those things still need some work, but yeah, I think this is the best one he has shown to fans, and I'm glad that there aren't any weird thing that happened this year, like in the past years where there was that kid who went up on stage and
that guy.
Yeah. So yeah, we're all entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It's like massive. Like just looking at it in the crowd, it was incredible to see how many people there really looked like the Oscars of gaming, for better or worse. Like that can hold a lot of sort of connotation. Huge production value. Yeah, like Tin, the whole, like you literally announced 5 categories in a row, just boom, 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 within the space of 3 minutes, and like the nominees and then the winner, the nominees and the winner, and then just hard cuts to some, ad or whatever. Like that was pretty frustrating. It's sad that those people don't get the time they deserve to, like, I don't know, accept the award and talk about the game. And but other than that, it's certainly entertaining, and I suppose that's the aim of it.
I know what you mean. And the Oscars just are another parallel. In the last few years, there are lots of Oscars that used to be announced on the air that aren't even in the broadcast anymore. They're still given, but they're not, highlighted. They're not spotlighted. They don't get speeches. So I understand that they are fighting against essentially viewer apathy. They want the show to be shorter, faster, but the point of this is supposed to be to honor the people who make games. And when they kind of speed run to steal a thing from a game, when they speed run the awards, it does feel a little bit disingenuous that that's what the show is actually for.
Like RPG of the Year was one of the ones that was in that 5 run. And it's just like, this felt like an incredible year for RPGs. And, I don't know if we're talking about who won at this point, but, announcing the winner and just giving them no opportunity to speak seemed wrong. I don't know if they're just not speaking with Japanese developers or like developers from overseas, or like, do you literally have to pay to be able to do a speech or something? I don't know. It doesn't sit right.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. The interesting thing is we were talking a second ago about how there were a lot of RPGs this year, and there were a lot of RPGs. So there were 6 games nominated for Game of the Year this year. 4 of the games out of the 6 that were actually nominated for Game of the Year, we actually covered them. So the 6 games that were Game of the Year was Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantazio. I don't think anyone would disagree that those 6 games very much deserve to be up there. We reviewed, as I said, 4 of them. Final Fantasy Rebirth got a 93, Black Myth Wukong got a 92, Shadow of the Erd Tree got a 95, and Metaphor got a 98. Despite those scores, Astrobot was the winner, and I haven't played Astrobot yet. I played like a lot of people, I played the absolutely stunning little mini platformer that came with the PlayStation 5, which honestly might still be one of my favorite 5 experiences I've ever had on the PlayStation 5. I'm planning on buying this over Christmas and giving it a shot because I just loved the first one so much. I don't have a problem with Astrobot winning. It looks like an incredible time. I thought Balatro should have won, but that's another whole argument.
Yeah, looking at that list, it just shows you how good of a year RPGs had. There's 4 games that are ostensibly RPGs that are there in contention. My thought about Astrobot and Balatro is, if I think about like the definition of a game almost in the way Nintendo thinks about games as toys, Astrobot and Balatro are like they're games in their like purest sense. But I mean, obviously that doesn't mean that RPGs aren't games. But yeah, I think it's maybe well deserved. But yeah, of course I want to see an RPG win. But anyway, maybe next year.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was almost wishing like we could have expanded the number of games that were nominated for Game of the Year this year, because like it felt like no matter what you did, there would have been like snubs. Like Helldivers 2 was like a huge deal earlier in the year and somehow wasn't nominated. And, all that, and like it's kind of like how the Oscars do it. Like there's like 10 nominees for Game of the Year now in the Oscars, I think. And I don't know, because like out of all the games that came out this year, I think I would have most like Infinite Wealth to win, which is, even though it's not even my favorite Yakuza, but I don't know. I just liked it the most out of everything this year. Although I'm not mad that Astrobot won, because that is very much a good game. I've played a bit of it. I know Tin's played like all of it. So
Yeah.
And how do you feel about it winning?
I'm pretty happy about it, actually.
Yeah, I thought-
I was also somewhat expecting it, because I was thinking that among all of the nominees, like I feel like most of the critics were divided on the RPGs. Like Rebirth and Metaphor have different style, I'd say. And with Astrobot, I'm sure a lot of like even the review scores, the average review scores that came out during that time, like everyone just enjoyed it. My time with it as well, when I played it, was that I just felt like a kid again playing it. And maybe that's like the whole theme of this year for this award. Like you don't really have to play something that complicated or something that huge, but if the game is just super fun and enjoyable for everyone, then it could potentially win an award.
Something I did find funny about Astrobot winning is there is another parallel to the Oscars here, which is if there's one thing that Oscar voters love, it's a movie about making movies, or a movie about movies. Like I remember when The Artist won in 2012, I think. Like everyone was like, it was a good movie, but the Oscar voters especially were just like, yeah, we get this because we are this. And this is kind of what Astrobot is in video game form, because it's just such a celebration of the history of games. And there are so many references to just every single franchise that Sony has ever had. that it is. I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all, even though it definitely will sound like it. It's so far up its own ass about video games that how can like people who vote for the best game of the year not vote for it?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like, it makes me wonder how the jury voted on this. Like, was it like a rank choice thing?
I wonder.
Because I can see Astrobot like being everyone's like number 2 or like number 3, and then winning based off of that, because the the number 1 votes were split between like Metaphor and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or something.
It also got Best Game Direction, which, again, very well deserved. Actually, Best Game Direction was funny because it was literally the exact same 6 games. And let's move into some other ones. So Best Art Direction, Metaphor, Refantasio got it. Extremely well deserved, if you ask me. The game is, much like the Persona games, just stunningly gorgeous in terms of its UI, and its interface is just incredible. So I think that well deserves that.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that it also varied on how much styles they've shown in the game. It's like, Final Fantasy has been known for having really gorgeous visuals as well and super high resolution stuff, but Metaphor wasn't that, but how the art was, drawn and shown was wonderful.
Yeah, it also won Best Narrative. So, I mean, there's an argument to be made if it won Best Narrative and it won Best Art, what else is there to have? I guess gameplay, which, it also had in spades. Metaphor is absolutely one of the games of the year. I don't think anyone's going to be disputing that. Incidentally, for those listening, our Games of the Year feature should be out pretty soon. And I know we're going to be doing a retro encounter also pretty soon where we're focusing on our Games of the Year. So stay tuned for that. Good news for RPG fans, though, because in one of the things that I think is most well-deserved, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth did get Best Score in Music.
True.
It's so damn pretty sounding.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of Metaphor's OST, so I'm glad to see. I mean, I love Silent Hill 2 OST, at least in its original form, is one of my favorite albums of all time. I didn't necessarily like the way it was retooled. Metaphor, I love a lot of Atlas music. Like, they were top on my Spotify list this year, but I didn't love it. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's so well done.
Oh yeah, it's exceptional. I mean, both Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, the soundtracks are, I mean, Final Fantasy VII, for obvious reasons, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of pushback here, has one of the most iconic soundtracks in history, and what they've done with it to expand it and create variations and versions of these famous tracks is just stunning. I think that is very, very well deserved. I'm going to combine the next two. These are not in the order they were presented, by the way, obviously. Best mobile game was Balatro, and best independent game was also Balatro. I would have been stunned if Balatro didn't win best mobile, because I know it was available on PC first, and it's only recently been available on mobile, but it's like, oh my god, it's so perfectly designed for mobile. Best independent game is a little bit trickier. Oh, it also won best debut indie, which, again, I think very well deserved, although apparently Animal Well is extremely good. The one that got me is in best independent game. I wish that UFO 50 got a little bit more exposure, because UFO 50 is one of the most extraordinary achievements in video games, I think, in the last 5 years. But I also think that due to the very nature of what it is, being 50 period appropriate, full-fledged games that would have appeared on an 8-bit console, it is overwhelming to, I think, a lot of gamers. Like, they'll boot it up and they'll play like 1 or 2 games, but there's 50 of them on there. That's insane, and that's really hard to digest. But it's like an incredible achievement, just that the fact it exists, let alone the fact that it exists and it's so good. And some of them are RPGs. Some of them are full-fledged RPGs.
I'm hanging out to get this for Switch. It looks so good. I think it can only be advertised so well. I don't think that a huge amount of the population have actually really know about this. We know about this because we follow games. I think it's pretty under the radar, even though it's been developed by pretty established developer or team. There's a team of developers, but the guy that did Spelunky, is that right?
Yeah.
So I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, and it's come up, and people are excited about it. But it came out pretty late in the year, and I don't think it's 50 games really, so they haven't had time to really attach to it and appreciate it. And
it's hard to market too, because with any other game, you can put it in front of the camera and say, "Here's the game. Look at it. It's pretty. There are particle effects." But with this one, like on first glance, you're like, "Oh, that's an 8-bit indie title," and then it's like, "Well, which games do you highlight?" Because there are 50 of them. It's a hard marketing challenge for it, I imagine.
It'll be a cult classic, though.
Yeah. Incidentally, I'm not saying Balatro should not have deserved Best Independent Game. Ignoring everything else, it's Canadian, and I'm delighted by this. Let's mention 3 more categories that are relevant to us. So Best Action Game, Black Myth Wukong won for Best Action Game. Incidentally, this is a few months ago, we did it was a prediction episode for episode 300 of Random, and it was me and Slowcy and Hillary and Mike all made predictions about what the industry is going to look like when we record Random 400 in a few years. And one of the predictions was that a Chinese-made game will win Game of the Year. And Black Myth Wukong won Best Action Game. And again, got a great score from us, got pretty good reviews right across the board, so well-deserved.
We're well on the way to that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
We're seeing a lot more Asian developers nowadays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if I could have made a prediction on the episode, I would say that Chinese developers, like in 10 years or so, will probably dominate the industry.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the slow waning of American and Japanese developers. You're gonna have to share space with a whole bunch, not just MiHoYo, but a whole bunch of new developers in the next decade. That's my little prediction.
No, I don't disagree with you. It's certainly where the money is.
Yeah,
sure.
And, the recent use I remember, was it from the Capcom director where he just moved to a Chinese company?
Was it Tencent or NetEase?
Yeah.
Okay. Tencent is eating everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even some Western devs are moving to Chinese companies, so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
The other one that I wanted to comment on before we get to the big one for us is Best Action Adventure Game. Astrobot won. The only game in this list that we technically cover is Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Again, Astrobot won Game of the Year. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pushback that it should have won Best Action Adventure Game. Despite that, I have heard remarkable things about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I hear it's one of the best Metroidvanias in the last 5-10 years. So, a lot of stiff competition there. But let's pivot to the big one for us. The big one for us is, of course, Best Role-Playing Game. So the nominees were Metaphor ReFantazio, Dragon's Dogma 2, Elden Ring, Shadows of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I don't think that anyone is surprised that Metaphor ReFantazio won for Best Role-Playing Game. That being said, there was a lot of room here for any of these, I think, could have gotten the crown. And I don't think anyone would have been really upset. I'm with you, Gio, with Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I loved this game. I adored it. There are some things about it I would have changed and would have preferred that were a little bit better. Ending didn't land for me. Wasn't so much what happened in the ending, it was the order that they happened. 7 Rebirth, I played it all the way through. I realized I'm in the minority here. By the time I was finished with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I was done with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game exhausted me. I haven't played Elden Ring, so I can't comment on the DLC. Dragon's Dogma 2 is an interesting one because I sometimes think that there really is a recency bias when it comes to award show. Dragon's Dogma 2 got some astonishingly good buzz very early in the year. There was some controversy there too, if I recall, involving fast travel, but the game itself, people were really, really enjoying it. So the fact it was nominated and recognized, that's great. But no, Metaphor ReFantazio got the crown. Does anyone have any thoughts or disagreements about that game winning?
I haven't played it, but I know Tin has. So
Well, I was expecting it to win. I know Rebirth was like a big competition, but I'm actually with you guys in here that if Metaphor didn't win, I wanted Infinite Wealth to win because even though also the ending of the game didn't stick the landing for me, similar or wasn't as good as Lad 7.
Mm.
The gameplay of Infinite Wealth is so good though. Like all the RPG aspects and elements in there was just real. They improved it a lot more compared from the previous game. So yeah, I think it's also one of the ones that I also think that deserves the award.
And I will say like about Rebirth, like I'm on record in the spoiler cast saying that I was pretty disappointed in the game.
You're the minority.
I was like the most negative one there, and I also came away exhausted, and I only pretty much played the main story with and the Queen's Blood mini game all the way through. But yeah, it was I wouldn't have minded it winning, but it's really like my last choice among these five, I think.
Can I ask you a question, Jed? I haven't played Infinite Wealth, but like from what I understand of it, is it truly enough of an RPG to have won this award? Like from the outside, I know it's got RPG elements and it's quite reverential of Japanese RPGs in general, but I mean, does it play and feel like a true RPG?
Absolutely. Like
it's a pure JRPG.
It's a pure JRPG.
Yeah, wow.
It's turn-based, and it's pretty much like if you put a Dragon Quest battle system in Yakuza, which Yakuza was already like a action RPG to begin with. So
it borrows a lot of elements from the DQ series.
Yeah,
because Ichiban loves DQ. So.
Yeah,
I was always so impressed with that because it would have been in earlier Yakuza games. I can't remember the name of it, but they used a stand-in for Dragon Quest. Like I remember there was a sub-story in Yakuza 0 where you have to help a little boy get a copy of this RPG that came out for this 8-bit system. And they were very general about what the name of the RPG was and what the system was. But in this game, they were just like, nope, it's Dragon Quest. Dragon, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and also Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon, both are absolutely 100% pure RPGs. Turn-based combat in the classic mold, full equipment system, a remarkably expansive job system as well for both games. They are genuinely some of the best JRPGs that have come out in the last few years. Now, obviously, the rest of the Yakuza series and Judgment and Yakuza, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii coming out early next year, those are action RPGs. And action RPGs can be a little bit less, I guess, they don't really have to hold to the same formula. But no, if you're looking for if you're looking for a real good JRPG, Yakuza Like a Dragon, play it. Absolutely. You'd have a great time.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, so yeah, there were lots more awards, but we're not going to talk about those because we'd be here for quite some time. Let's move on to what I think a lot of people would argue is the meat of the Game Awards, which is the game announcements and trailers. Again, we're not going to be doing all of them because there were a lot of them, but we're going to focus on some of the ones that are relevant to us at RPG Fan. And also, I'm not even going to pretend to I'm just picking out some of the ones that I went like, ooh, that looks cool. Let's talk about that. So the first one, and one of the bigger ones that got announced, was Dave the Diver in the Jungle DLC. So Dave the Diver is extraordinarily popular still. It's so funny to me. People think this is an indie game because it has all of the trappings of indie games, but it's not. But it is a remarkably expansive game in terms of its gameplay, and its gameplay loop is rock solid. You dive, you get fish, you come up, you sell them in the restaurant. And then there's a lot of things going on aside from that. But we didn't see any new gameplay in this trailer. It was kind of a cinematic trailer, but clearly it's going to be set in a jungle setting. And I think that could offer a number of different opportunities, ranging from just new fish to entirely new gameplay modes. Nikki reviewed the original. Was it? Oh my God! Was it? It was last year. It was the end of last year, and gave it a 91. So big fan. And this is going to be expected for a late 2025 release. Has anyone here played Dave the Diver?
Me.
Tin, you've played everything. You're remarkable.
Yeah.
Oh, I also, this was like one of the games last year that I played that was so addicting. I just can't stop playing it until I finished it because all the gameplay, they chucked it all in together like that. It just works. And I wholeheartedly agree with Nikki's review because she pretty much summarized everything that I felt for this game. I like that there's humor and there's also a bit of a deep kind of storytelling in a way. And I'm looking forward to this upcoming DLC, or should I say expansion? Because that's what I'm getting from the trailer. Like compared to the past DLCs that they've done, which are like super mini stuff, like partnering with different IPs. This one seems
Dredge,
like,
I think, did one a few months ago.
yeah. This one is like it's they're coming up with new content that's from them only alone and not partnering with any other developer whatsoever. But yeah, I'm feeling this is somewhat like a bite-sized one, but just longer than the past ones that they've added. So
yeah, we have some time until they. Again, we haven't seen any gameplay yet.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
it's not like they can take the restaurant with them, so it'll be interesting to see how they maintain the core gameplay loop. Let's move on to something that is not going to be in our coverage, but something I'd like to briefly talk about because it looks pretty cool, and that is Thick as Thieves. So this is a stealth action game from the legendary developer Warren Spector, and I do not know how this is going to work. I have no idea. It looks like a PvP multiplayer Thief with stealth-based mechanics, creative approaches to like heists and things like that. And I don't, watching the trailer especially, it will be very interesting to see how the game will be able to find the balance between the competitive nature of the gameplay and the stealth game, because PvP games tend to be fairly noisy as the players compete with each other. So I really am interested to see how this game works and how the competitive nature of it actually works into a stealth mechanic. I don't know, but I think it also looks pretty cool. It's very much a game up my alley.
It's very much a game like I would watch someone stream, like for sure. It's like pretty. I can see the entertainment value in it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It looks good, but yeah, I'm exactly what you say, Jono. It's like how is it going to get that tempo right? It looks like it wants to be like a Team Fortress, almost something like that, a capture the flag kind of situation. But if you're forced to go into stealth mode, like it just would be jarring, and like the momentum would feel, I don't know, so variable. I can't see it. I think, to be honest, it looks like it might flop. That's a big call, but I look at that and I go, I don't think it has a place. It's going to find a place or a strong place to be in sort of the modern competitive gaming scene.
I don't disagree with you because PvP, as I said, tends to be fairly noisy. It's very much player versus player, and people who play games like that tend to not be subtle about it. I can imagine that there could be game mechanics in there where there are some kind of punishments or debuffs or something like that for breaking stealth or for getting caught, but it seems like it would be very difficult to work as a PvP game. Now, I could see it working as a multiplayer game, like a version of this where you and a team of 3 other people have to go in and plan a heist and like do individual things. Like one person has to go in and disable the alarms, the other person has to go in and take out the guards, and someone has to go in and like steal the MacGuffin. That would be super interesting to me. And there could be some interesting stuff in there too about like, do you trust the person who is stealing the thing? Like, are they trustworthy? Are they just going to run off with it? Maybe you need a contingency plan. That seems interesting to me. That seems like a much more viable kind of gameplay model than a PvP model. That being said, who knows? It's coming out in a few years. We don't know when it's coming, what it's going to look like in its final form. But I am pretty excited to see what it is, what it turns into, because it has a lot of gameplay mechanics that I'm super interested in. Okay, very briefly, because it doesn't really have anything to do with us. I do not think there are any Castlevania RPG elements in this. I just want to mention Shadow Labyrinth, just because it's one of those crazy things I've seen from an announcement, which is a very dark and disturbing twist on Pac-Man. Someone was like, "Hey, let's make Pac-Man into like a Pokemon, and he'll be with like a swordsman, and it's going to be a dark Metroidvania set on some kind of an alien world." And it looks weird. Looks good, but looks weird.
Yeah.
Is it literally licensed Pac-Man? Like, there's a
Pac-Man.
little Pac-Man
it
shaping
is.
thing. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's really weird.
Yeah, it's legitimately Pac-Man. I mean, it's not called. His name isn't Pac-Man. What is his name here? Let me check through here. It's Puck, Puck. It's actually fascinating that Puck, Puck, was featured in Amazon's recent video game anthology series, Secret Level. So the character has been introduced, and I look forward to seeing where that goes. Even though it's a Metroidvania, I don't think it's the kind of Metroidvania that we covered, one with more RPG Castlevania elements instead of the Metroid elements. But looks neat.
Yeah, I was just looking here. Bandai Namco is the publisher, and they do own Pac-Man. So also it's like, why aren't they going just full blown Pac-Man if they own?
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of like the trend in the 2000s when they tried to make their IPs edgy. It's like
different.
Shadow the Hedgehog. I know there's like a more analog.
Gio, I hate to break it to you, but there's a movie coming out very soon that features Shadow the Hedgehog.
It's in that vein, I think.
They have Pac-Man, they have Miss Pac-Man, they have Pac-Man Jr., and now they have, I don't know, Pac Shadow. That'd be great. Shadow Pac. Okay, let's move on to something that's actually in our coverage, and that's Solata 2. So this is a tactical RPG, very much inspired by tabletop games. So people who like Baldur's Gate probably look at this and go, ooh. Abe reviewed the original back in 2001. Abe enjoyed it, but didn't love it, gave it a 78. Said it was good. There was some very, very good combat, but its story just wasn't there. Hopefully they have learned from that. It uses Dungeons & Dragons 5e rule set, and it's going to be released in early access. So there should be some time for them to fine-tune this, hopefully to make it... hopefully they've learned from the first one, as a good sequel should, and it will be a fascinating game that will come out, the full version, probably in 2026. I don't like saying the number 2026. That's weird to me.
We're almost there.
We are almost there. It's so true, though. When I'm watching, this has been true every year I've ever watched the Game Awards, and especially this year I'm watching, and they're like, this game is coming out in 2026. I'm like, well, why are you announcing it now? 2026 isn't for No, that's an appropriate amount of time, I guess.
Yeah, it looks interesting, and this is probably splitting hairs, but like looking back at Solasta, it's probably closer to like a Divinity Original Sin than Baldur's Gate. I mean, it was not probably the original game was produced before Baldur's Gate 3 came out. So
I did see that they also got the Baldur's Gate narrator in here, so she would also be narrating in this game. So they have big shoes to fill in that case. Then, like, they have to satisfy interested Baldur's Gate 3 players to enjoy this. So I hope it works out for them.
I think we're going to just see more and more of these sort of things. As much as I said, it's not necessarily influenced by Baldur's Gate 3. We're just going to see more and more CRPGs with this kind of turn-based tactical combat. Just, the next 3-4 years.
We will. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast in terms of the industry. Speaking of another sequel, and this one we didn't cover when it first came out, and I think we're going to start covering this because, first off, it is extraordinarily popular. But second off, it does have a lot of the gameplay elements that we cover here at RPG Fan. So I think we're going to start covering Slay the Spire, and Slay the Spire 2 was announced, or at least the early access trailer was announced. So obviously, super anticipated sequel to the deck building roguelike. We're going to get, again, early access launch is going to be in 2025. So I fully expect that this thing won't be available full until 2026. Slay the Spire was probably one of the foundational deck builders out there that really popularized the genre and created God only knows how many imitators. So the fact that we're getting the 2 after it is pretty interesting for fans of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, as people like Clayton and Tin and myself know, like we do like that RPGs coming this week column every week, and there's a crap ton of deck builders like every week to sift through.
Roguelike deck builder.
Yeah. And I'm just surprised that we don't already cover Slay the Spire, although we did cover the board game thanks to Jerry.
Yeah, Jared covered the board game a little while ago. That was a conversation. And we've recently had another conversation. We were like, yeah, okay. It makes sense. And with the new game coming out, we didn't cover it at the time, but with the new game coming out, it makes sense for us to take another look and say, yeah, this could be interesting. So yeah, we're going to cover it. But if you've heard it here first, unless of course if I get fired and I don't know, replaced by someone who is completely anti deck builder, it's not an RPG, it's a lazy, try mechanics instead of drawing from a deck. Yeah, it'll be covered. Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of controversy about this game. This is a pretty Slay the Spire is a pretty beloved IP.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think this title is controversial, but I truly hope we're going to reach peak deck builders soon. And just, I don't hate them and I don't love them, but enough is enough.
I can't really disagree with you. There's just so many of them. It's just such a seductive gameplay mechanic for a lot of different genres, where it does provide a really compelling element of strategy and luck, and really does trigger some of those gambling mechanisms in the brain where it's just compelling. I got to do this until I got to get a good card. I got to, like, that kind of thing. It's a very compelling mechanic. I think that you're right, though. I think it's in frigging everything. So, well, I will be very, very surprised if the next game I'm going to be talking about here is a deck builder. Oh my God, I could only imagine what people would say. The Witcher 4, CD Projekt Red announced. Well, I mean, we knew the Witcher 4 was coming, but we got a good chunk of stuff here. Ciri is now the protagonist, and this has been greeted with I really, really hope that this is true and continues to be true. When I saw the trailer last night, I was like, oh crap, the amount of misogyny that's going to be exploding on the internet because of this trailer is going to be overwhelming. And it doesn't look like there's been very much. There is some, of course there is some, but it doesn't look like it's overwhelming as I was terrified that it was going to. Possibly because it was a pretty good trailer. Didn't show any gameplay, but it certainly showed what we can expect, I think.
Yeah. Well, I fully expect this to be the next battleground for the culture war, the ongoing culture war. I've already seen a few misogynistic posts, so
I've seen a few.
Yeah.
I genuinely do not think it will become it. I think that I'm about to reveal my true feelings about culture warriors. I think they're bullies. I think they are bullies, plain and simple. And bullies never, ever, ever go for the strongest kid in the class. And CD Projekt Red and The Witcher certainly, they're a force to be reckoned with. They have such a strong fan base. And if this game is good, I do not. There's going to be some. There absolutely is going to be some. I don't think it's going to be the focus, because I think that these bullies know if they took this game on, they'd lose. Mm-hmm. I might be wrong about that. I hope I'm right about this.
The Witcher is an IP. It has just heaps of good female characters in it, fairly nuanced. I mean, there's definitely some, background misogyny and stuff like that. But I think it, reading the books and watching the show and things like that, I don't think too many of these culture warriors are actually going to be fans of this show. Like, it's as much about these women, Yennefer and Tisea and all these sort of strong, powerful women that I just don't. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be coming to bat for it, really.
I don't think they will. I don't think they'll like it. I don't think it's going to be a tempting target for them because I think it's too powerful a target. I think it's too strong. And I think that CD Projekt Red, despite the incredible hiccup that happened off the top of Cyberpunk 2077, which they corrected, and now Cyberpunk is considered to be one of the best open world RPGs of the last couple of years. If they took this on and they lose, it would hurt their credibility. I think it's too much of a chance for them. And of course, there are going to be like little small fry and people who are trained to attack anything they see starring a woman. And of course, there's going to be that misogyny online. But I think the ones who are actually calling the shots here, the big guns, they're not stupid. They're not going to take on The Witcher 4. And if they do, I would love to see them lose. I would love to see them lose over this because there's nothing better than watching these losers just lose pathetically. Sorry, I hate bullies.
The trailer was amazing.
It was a good trailer, wasn't it?
Looks so good. And that the Kikimora, like that creature, it was a lot like the first episode of the first season of The Witcher. Ciri looks amazing. She's a badass. Yeah, the weapons, everything about it, just so good. It was emotional too. Like it was a well structured little story, like a vignette.
It was, and not only was it a good vignette, it also set up the gameplay mechanics of the RPG, which is at the end of the trailer. We don't see what she chooses, but like you can see the dialogue option at the end of that quest being, does she walk away from the villagers and say, fine, this is your problem, you want to live in this pathetic society, you can have it? Does she stab the murderer in the chest? Like you can see the choice that could be made here in the actual gameplay. Like super effective trailer.
With that said, my question for you guys is, when do you think will this release? What year, given CD Projekt Red's history with releasing games?
Announced for 2026, moved to 2027, coming out in 2028, comes out in January 2029.
Yeah. I don't know. Expect the worst and hope for the best.
Yeah. I just hope they've learned with release dates, especially with the launch of Cyberpunk. Like, I hope they don't launch this unfinished. That's the only thing I'm hoping. Oh, isn't that what they did before, even with Witcher?
Well, sure. It was more they tried to straddle generations. Like they tried to release it on PS4 and PS5.
Actually, I'm not a fan of how they do that, but
surely they can't do that again. There was such a mess. There's no way in the world that they'll be like, no, we're going to get a dev kit from Sony or from Xbox, and we're going to build it for one system. And in that way, maybe it will be an exclusive.
It might just be. Tin, have you seen any of the still quiet but still trending bullshit about this game?
Oh, actually, not much. It's probably like what you mentioned earlier, that even those bullies would try to attempt to sabotage this or whatever, there are a lot of Witcher defenders. And also I think it's because they haven't really shown enough yet, and like there's no gameplay, or even though this was like a lengthy cinematic, at the end of the day, people would mostly critic it when they show gameplay.
And is it guaranteed Geralt's not in there?
No, he is. He was in the I think he was in the voiceover at the end of the trailer. But yeah, the actor's there. The actor's in it, so it's confirmed he's there. We don't know what role he's going to be playing in the game itself, though. Yeah,
there's a possibility that he could just also be narrating. So we don't know.
I think that would be cool, though.
I think it'd be funny if the only time we saw him was in the tub.
just multiple times throughout.
Just chilling.
He's always in the tub.
He's retired now. He's just in the tub all the time. He just lives in the tub now. Yeah. He's writing his memoirs in the tub. He has a little desk set up, like a little thing set up across the front of it, and he's just writing his memoirs, and that's his role in this game.
People will love that though.
Just make the meme the reality. That's what you got to do. Okay, well let's move on to another IP that people feel extremely passionate about, which, to be frank, no one expected this to happen, which is Elden Ring Nightreign. So I feel like when this trailer first started up, a lot of people were like, wait a minute, are we getting more DLC for Elden Ring? But this looks a little bit different. So it is very different. So Elden Ring Nightreign reimagines the Lands Between sort of into a parallel world. It's the same world space, but changed a bit. And there's going to be bosses from other FromSoft titles. But the key here is it's going to be a cooperative game, which is a significant shift for Elden Ring and also for, I guess, this kind of thing. So you're getting to explore the world and fight alongside your friends. We saw a fair bit of this game, actually. Miyazaki's not directing it, but it looks pretty good. And it's using Elden Ring, the already existing foundation, as a, foundation. So chances are it's going to be mechanically pretty damn solid. The question is whether or not it's going to have that same FromSoft magic.
I'm hoping it does, because, conceptually, this is pretty unprecedented, like, for From Software, even, like, to just make, like, a multiplayer focused. Although I think you can do this, you can play this solo, but, like, a multiplayer almost roguelike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
from my
it's
understanding.
almost roguelike.
Yeah. And I've always thought there's so much more to explore, like, in the lore of Elden Ring, from, like, Shadow of the Erdtree. And then, like, there's this storyline in the base game, with the something death, blah blah blah. And, like, I'm hoping that Nightreign is about that, and it kind of looks like it based off the trailer, because, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing this for sure with Tin and someone else. So I'm hoping it's good. I'm really hoping, because Miyazaki not being there is a bit
Shocking.
worrisome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand though.
Yeah, but the person it is with is, like, the combat director for Dark Souls and Dark Souls 3. So I think combat wise, gameplay wise, we're good. Like, I think it'll be in good hands in that front.
I think so too. FromSoft generally is not known for releasing crap, and if it's gotten to this point in development, then they would know, okay, do we need to shut it down, or is this good enough to release for our standards? And if it's gotten to this and it's gotten a trailer, I think it's probably up to their standards.
Yeah, I actually saw, I think last night before I slept, they posted, like, they're accepting network test registrations, like, which is soon, like in January, and, like, people would test it, I think, by Feb, but I'm not sure on that again. But with that said, I'm actually surprised, because they're trying something new this time, and I guess they also want to, like, they've always been known with single player games, so it's like they're going beyond their usual thing this time, and I really like that. And I also really like that Miyazaki is passing on other duties to his other people, so that's, like, a lot room for improvement in a way. And I do understand if, like, some people are a bit skeptical about it, but I'm sure he would be, like, still overseeing things on this. And I hope that this would really go well. And I'm actually might think that this might compete with Monster Hunter, because it's giving me that kind of vibe. The teaming up with your party members, conquering a boss, a very difficult boss. Like, it's an optional thing if you dare to go play it alone. But yeah, it's really surprising that they're releasing this in the same year with Monster Hunter Wilds coming out as well.
Yeah, it's really throwing down a gauntlet there. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle. I mean, it's set. I understand it's set in a parallel world, but basically the landmass is. I imagine that most of the landmass and the buildings, things like that, are going to be fairly similar. So it's going to be interesting to see how they twist the lore. And if the lore is going to be twisted in such a way that you need to be familiar with Elden Ring, or if it will stand on its own. Because generally co-op games not really known for the lore, at least not in-game lore.
True.
But yeah, it looks fascinating. It looks good. I mean, it looks like Elden Ring. Obviously, it looks like Elden Ring. It is Elden Ring. Okay, well, I mean, one of the next things that was announced, quick note, we're not going to talk about this too much, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out on PC on January 23rd, 2025, which my brain interprets as coming out in a year, but in reality, it's coming out in a month and a half. So if you do not have a PlayStation 5 and you are looking forward to playing Final Fantasy VII, much like a few years ago, you would have been looking forward to playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth's coming out. So good for you. Enjoy. I did for a lot of it. Now, here's a game that I am super, super, super excited about, and I cannot wait to play, which is The Outer Worlds 2. So, Obsidian announced The Outer Worlds 2. It's set for release in 2025, which is surprising to me, considering that they have another game coming out in 2025 in just a few months, Avowed. That's two big releases in 2025. Not that I'm objecting, not complaining, but a little surprised. So, it's going to be a completely fresh adventure. It's going to be set in a new colony. Presumably, there's going to be new corporations. I mean, the old ones from the previous game are probably still there, but there are probably going to be new corporations and things like that to provide, extra commentary on capitalism, etc. It's going to be the usual ability points, skill checks, companions, significant narratives, lots of weapon customization, and I really, really, really like The Outer Worlds. I really did. Loved the base game, loved one of the DLCs, and even the other one wasn't bad. It just didn't quite hit the same way for me. I cannot wait for this game. It scratches the same itch that Fallout scratched for obvious reasons, because, spiritual successor and all that. And I do like the fact that The Outer Worlds and the setup of the universe does lend itself to different colonies and different systems and different corporations. So there is a lot of room for exploration and new lore, essentially. And I think it looks great. It's very, very funny. The first game is funny. The trailer was hysterically funny, where they were taking the piss out of themselves the entire time. And yeah, I think Obsidian hopefully will knock this one out of the park. Based on what I've seen so far, I'm pretty happy with it. So my fingers are crossed.
Yeah. For me, I think I might dive into this one because I had no idea it was like a Fallout successor until you said so. But now my interest is peaked. And I'll probably even check out the first one before this one comes out.
I would. Not because there's probably going to be some gameplay mechanics carried over as well, but Obsidian created New Vegas, so obviously big thing there. The writer of The Outer Worlds, what's his name? Leonard Boyarski, I think. He was the writer of the original Fallout, like the very original Fallout. I know Tim Kaine worked on this as one of the directors, so it very much is a spiritual successor to both Fallout, the original Fallout, and to Fallout New Vegas. Not as good as either game, still really, really good. So if you are a fan of either the original Fallout or New Vegas, or you just really like a kind of a fun RPG set in a really interesting universe with some really, really good companions, I highly recommend the original.
Yes, I shall check it out.
It just makes me hope that one day they get to do Fallout again too. Like, I just really hope that happens.
People keep saying that chances are, now that both Bethesda and Obsidian are owned by the same, shall we say, nameless corporation that seems to believe that everything is an Xbox, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
That's so stupid.
It's so stupid. Hey, do you know how we get people to buy our system? By telling people that we don't need to buy they don't need to buy our system. So,
Jono, do you know this podcast is an Xbox? If you really think about it.
This podcast, I don't want this podcast to be an Xbox because it wouldn't sell very well. But you're right. There's a chance that at some point in the future, considering that they're both owned by Microsoft, that maybe Obsidian could work on a Fallout game. But honestly, I don't think so. I mean, God, if I was Microsoft, the second that Fallout... Oh, that was another thing. Fallout won Best Adaptation at the Game Awards, which I was pretty happy about because I really enjoyed it. But I still think that the biggest blunder of 2024 was Bethesda working so closely with Amazon and releasing Fallout, the TV show. And then when people were like, so what you got for us? They were like, guys, it's 76 is new DLC. And people are like, oh, you don't have like a remaster of Fallout 3 or New Vegas or like, heaven forbid, Fallout 5. And they're like, 76. And the way to completely screw up capitalizing on probably one of the year's biggest hits, Bethesda.
I know.
So
it's really surprising that they didn't see it coming. The show is really good.
It's really, really good, and it's so shockingly lore friendly, right down to like the finest detail. I can't really think of another adaptation where you could literally just, after somebody who watches it, if they're like, wow, I want more of this, you can be like, here's more of it. Literally, it's the exact same, uses all of the same designs, looks identical. Go ahead. Like you can drop them into the exact world of the TV show, and it would have been great. And I guess you could still do that with Fallout 4, but like that they didn't have anything new, nothing. Yeah. They could have done I know that Todd Howard hates remasters and remakes, but come on, Microsoft.
You could do something with it. Yeah.
They could have done anything. I mean, they did everything. When I say they could have done anything, they did Fallout 76. So I just can't help but change this into a Fallout 76 bashing podcast. God help me if Fallout 76 gets like a massive new DLC that's actually well received at the same time a new Saga game comes out, like the same week, and I have to do I have to do a episode of Random Encounter that features both.
A love and hate podcast.
Anyway, let's talk about one of my favorite gaming studios of all times, RGG Studios. So Ryu ga Gotoku Studios revealed a brand new IP. They also revealed the return of Virtua Fighter, which is of less interest to me. But then it's going to be a new action RPG called Project Century, which presumably won't be the final name. It's going to be an action game, hopefully an action RPG, which I would be surprised if it wasn't, set in 1915 Japan. Super violent tone. Like kind of looks like Yakuza, but like this guy is the main character in this thing is literally tearing through people. More blood than I've ever seen in an RGG game. We don't know who the protagonist is yet. We don't know what's happening, but it looks really good. It looks really, really good. I'm excited for this, whatever the heck it is. It will be interesting to see whether or not it is in the Like a Dragon series or if it is going to be a complete standalone. Because based on the location, it looks like it's set in, I would imagine, Tokyo in 1915. So it would be fairly easy for them to, I don't know, tell the rise of one of the Tojo clan, for example.
Yeah.
From the Like a Dragon series. They could literally just do that. And I think most people would be quite pleased. I'm super excited about this. I was not expecting any news from RGG, and the fact that we got some was a delight. And honestly, if it isn't a Yakuza game or if it's only related to a Yakuza game, I would be fine with that, because as much as I love Yakuza, I'm starting to get tired because I'm playing 2 of them a year.
This is one of the things that I also did not expect in the show, because for one, they're just about to release a new game soon. And this studio is just unstoppable. They're just pooping games. They keep coming every year.
Considering how good they are, I think that they would probably prefer the laying the golden eggs rather than the pooping the game.
Sorry, I meant it in a good way.
I know what you meant. But I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Yeah.
Actually, considering how I felt about the man who erased his name, I actually really agree with you. But
yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, actually, among all of the things that were announced. And knowing RGG, I know this would release soon, even though they haven't named anything about it yet, but they were pretty fast. So As the one you mentioned earlier with it having a violent tone, I guess it would also match, given that in Japanese history being a lot brutal and all that. So we, it's, I actually think that this is also going to be more Yakuza or a lot closer to how Yakuza started in a way. So
There is some speculation online that the actor who is playing, well, I guess would be the motion capture of the main character here, is the same actor who played Kiryu in the recent television series, which I have not seen.
Same here. I haven't seen it. That's why I was so surprised when I saw it, and I was like, "There was a 2006 Yakuza movie." So
yeah, there was. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, but maybe I should go see it.
Yeah, I should see that. I gotta watch that new TV show. I do. It's just I've heard a lot about it and like saw the reviews and things like that, and people were like, "This is a humorless adaptation that focuses on the gritty realism of being a gangster in Japan." And I'm like, did they play the games? Like, the reason why that whole thing works is because of the sharp relief of the fact that he races little cars. Like, the beauty of Yakuza is the extraordinarily difficult to pull off tonal mismatch between the realities of being a gangster in Japan and I don't know, putting on a mascot character who has a bowl of ramen on his head and running around the city trying to sell tickets. Like, it's the mismatch that makes it great. And the fact that I remember after it came out, they released a video of the main character singing Bakami Tai. I was like, oh, here we go. And then I was like, and then it said underneath, it was like, this isn't in the series. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
I've never seen that on a show ever. This isn't in the series.
Yeah, it's like you know what was missing. You did it. You recorded him singing a stupid karaoke song and you didn't put it into the show. It's astonishing to me. I'm not Japanese, and my knowledge of the Yakuza series is of only having played every single one of them, but except for Dead Souls, but that's a whole other story. But like, I know what makes the games great. I know why they're beloved. And it seems to me that if you were producing an adaptation that is entirely a gritty Japanese crime drama, you're missing the point of your own property.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, anyway. Jono, you can skip it. I've seen a bit, but maybe you can just try to watch the 2006 movie.
Honest to God, I would have been, if I was in charge of directing that thing, the first episode would have been the setup. It would have been, set in the late 1980s, early 90s, and Kiryu, it would have been 1994, right? And Kiryu, being sent to jail and everything. And then at the end of that season, it would have set up the stakes. And then the next 5 episodes would have just been him every episode would have been set up around one weird sub-story in the game.
Yeah.
Or him doing like one mini game. Like one entire episode would have him just doing the racing, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Or like one whole episode would have just been him bowling. And then the final episode would have been like tying up all the stakes. And that would have been the show. And that's the show I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Anyway. Let's move on because the episode is going to be running a little long and I don't want to go on for too much longer. So we're going to be skipping over some announcements and we're going to be jumping to what would have generally be considered, I think, to be the biggest announcement in the Game Awards. I was actually kind of a little touched at this point because Jeff got like a little flustered, like a little misty while talking about it. Like clearly that I think he's a tremendous presenter. I don't think he's an actor, and like he wasn't faking these emotions. Like he was genuinely like choked up, and it started out with an orchestral performance, and then you were seeing like, wow, that's some really beautiful art behind them, and then it's revealed to be an Okami sequel. Holy crap! Talk about games that people have wanted for decades and have not didn't expect to ever get, aside from a DS semi sequel, which was very good. Okami-den. So yeah, we're getting the sequel to Okami. It's not called Okami 2. Right now it's called the sequel to Okami. Okami was for lack of a better word, a Zelda-like that was released during the PlayStation era, starring a starring a very good girl. We got to play as a dog, essentially, well, a wolf, but it used incredible mechanics that involved painting symbols on the screen to perform some of your what in a Zelda term would be like a bomb or things like that. It's a beloved series. It's one of the most gorgeous games released in that era of video games, and that we're getting a sequel. And this art, specifically, looking at this art, just makes me go, "Oh, this could be something special." Now, we've not seen anything from the game, obviously. It's just begun development, but the fact that it is in development and they publicly put it out there that this is in development, this is happening, is really nice to see, and I'm super excited.
Oh, this is one of my childhood games. Like, I played this back when it came out in 2006. I was like 13 years old, and one of the first things that happened was like my brother texted me, "Hey," freaking out because this game is coming out. And yeah, it really hit home. I felt like I related to Jeff Keighley in that moment when he was like getting all torn up. This game, man. I mean, it's not the. I have some issues with the game, and it's a bit too long. But yeah, it's nostalgia goggles are in full effect here for me.
You don't need nostalgia goggles to be a very strong prescription when the game looks this damn good to this day.
Yeah.
Because it still looks real good.
The HD version is readily available, guys. I think it's on sale at the moment. So if you're interested, definitely pick it up.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest Zelda likes of all time.
And they're also releasing a bundle, partnering it with Kunitsugami.
Oh.
Yeah. So
neat.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound weird. I have never played Okami. However, I did sit next to my then girlfriend for the entire time that she played Okami. It's one of the only, I guess it came out on the Wii. This would have been the Wii port. Essentially I just had a live Let's Play with my girlfriend. So like I've experienced the entire game. I've never played the entire game. I've always meant to go back and play it myself. Because I recall she was very good at it. So I was like, I never felt like I could do better. But it just gorgeous, stunning, beautiful presentation, beautiful music, beautiful everything. As you could tell from this particular announcement, just stunning. Clayton, have you ever played it?
I haven't. I'm just watching the trailer as you guys are speaking for this title, like the newer one. And yeah, hopefully it looks like that game in that trailer. If they can pull that off, I think it'd be a stunning game. But yeah, I'd be interested to see what it looks like in motion, like as in gameplay wise.
Check out some footage from the original. It's an extraordinarily painterly game.
Yeah. And as you said, I think that type of style is a little bit invulnerable to like that. It ages well, it's always going to look good. It's not trying for hyper realism. It's it's got its own style and it's hand painted. So yeah, it could be really cool.
I hope it is. I think it will be. I cannot imagine them fumbling on this one. And the final big presentation was something new from Naughty Dog. It's a game called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. I do not know if this is going to be in our coverage or not. It might just be. I have to admit, I was watching it and I was like, man, between the Outer Worlds and Starfield, every studio just keeps throwing the pasta against the wall to see if it sticks. In this particular case, it is pulling very strongly from the 1970s style sci-fi. I have to admit, my particular headcanon about all the 1970s is that history continued just as it did from today, and they developed like 4K, 8K OLED, and then like 300 years in the future, they were just like, nah, CRT is better.
True story.
They had me in with those CRTs and the cool Sony stereo or whatever it was. It just, I wanted to be in that ship and hanging out.
It looks cool, and it's Naughty Dog, and Naughty Dog does tend to make some good games. So we haven't seen that much about it yet, but hopefully we do, and hopefully it is something that we will cover, because that would be really cool. Well, we've reached the end of the show, sort of. There's a lot we didn't talk about, but before we go, I just wanted to ask everyone, what was your favorite? It can be your favorite reveal. It can be your favorite moment. It can be your favorite award, your speech. It could be anything. What was your favorite moment from this award show?
that one speech that person gave who like he made like a kind of like a job board for
Yeah.
laid off developers, and
Oh yeah,
that
of
his
course.
speech was like a really heart stirring.
Mhm.
My goodness, what a pure hearted person that person is. Yeah, that was like my favorite moment.
Yeah. The fact that the Game Awards actually surprisingly didn't shy away from layoffs and things like that was nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
And smart. It gave them a lot of, I mean, there were a lot of jokes, which I'm going to bring up in a second, about, sellout, etc. But in this particular case, they didn't sell out. They really did confront the problem head on, which was great.
Yeah, it is weird, right? Like that they joke about, or no, not really joke about, but like they mention, like they reference these problems, and it feels like they're covering their tracks in a way.
I guess. I mean, it's a tremendously problematic industry in so many ways. It's so funny to me that people think that video games are a mature industry. And I guess in a way it is, but like they've only really been super popular since the 1980s. I mean, it's only like a 40-year-old industry. It doesn't have the same literally maturity behind it as, well, say, film does. Like God, the film industry started in the 1910s, so that would put the gaming industry as it currently exists now would be somewhat similar to the film industry as it was in like the 1950s, which was not really a mature industry at the time. They were still figuring stuff out. It really does make me wonder what the video game industry is going to look like about 20 years from now, in the 70s, when arguably the industry really started to mature and start telling stories that are still considered to be not just modern classics, but stories which really do hold up today, like 50 years later.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Godfather of games then.
I think they made one, actually. I think the Godfather of games exists. It's a Mafia / GTA ripoff.
Right.
It's coming soon.
No, it's out. They years ago they released it. They just released a frigging Godfather game, and they couldn't get Al Pacino's likeness, so they just replaced his face with some Yahoo.
Oh,
Right.
Oh God, I take your point, Gio. Tin, how about you? What was your favorite moment from the show?
same here, Gio. That was also literally got me teary-eyed. I mean, I don't know these people, and I just knowing what he did for his community, or for other people in general, without asking in return, is just very heartwarming. And apart from that, probably I'd say the best reveal I had was maybe if I was a big Okami fan, if I've played it, but I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But Gio played it, so he was really going crazy when it was announced. But for me, it was probably Project Century, actually. So let's see.
Yeah. Oh, I want to shout out the Fumito Ueda game.
All right.
That got announced. The trailers are really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we see gameplay, but it's so reminiscent of the way Ico and Shadow of the Colossus look like, but with a sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited to see more.
Let's climb up in this big creature.
Yeah.
We're a little guy, and there's a big thing, and we got to climb up on the big thing, and we're friends with the big thing.
Yeah.
Clayton, how about you?
Yeah, I'll be less sentimental than you two, but for me it was Witcher 4, like that reveal, having a 6-minute detailed trailer that was so sort of rousing. That was pretty exciting. That was the one thing that I felt made the show really worthwhile, and I think it gave the show a lot of clout to have that as their reveal. There was also a dude in the orchestra absolutely smashing the flute, so that was fun.
Oh yeah, flute guy.
Yeah.
Flute guy. I don't know if it was same flute guy, new flute guy, but he had multiple different flutes in that when they played like a medley of songs from the Game of the Year nominees, and he was absolutely killing it. And there was also a keytar in the, I don't know what game it was, but someone was playing, it was for Balatro's theme. There was a guy playing a keytar, so that was pretty cool too.
Yeah. I don't just love Balatro for the gameplay. I also think it has one song, and it is a really good song that you strangely don't get sick of, because it's the only thing you listen to. Yeah, flute guys in orchestras are awesome, especially when they're like really like rocking out on a flute. It's a very memeable moment that also is, sounds great. I'm going to go for something that is not touching and is not interesting. It's just stupid. I just love it. When Statler and Waldorf showed up, I was like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Because I am a big Muppets fan, and I think that those two are two of the. I mean, they're part of the magic of the Muppet Show. But more importantly than that, I've always felt that Jeff Knightley is very Kermit-esque. I've always thought that he really does seem like a human embodiment of Kermit the Frog. He's always so, and the fact that these two showed up to roast him exactly the same way that they roast Kermit, it felt right somehow. And it did, as I said earlier in the podcast, it let them take the piss out of the show a little bit, in a way that would have been mean if a human was doing it. But the fact that it was these two old gay gentlemen who have their own box seats, just like roasting the crap out of it, was beautiful. I also know that he is a massive Muppets fan, so that had to be a moment for him that he very much enjoyed. Anyway, I just thought I thought they added a lot to the proceedings, just as they actually do during the Muppet Show. So I was very happy to see them there. Yeah, on the whole, I think it was a damn good show. I think it was an entertaining show. I thought it had good reveals. I thought they need to remember this next year, and they need to figure out ways to improve it further without losing what made it a good show this year. Because I think they really hit something this year, and if they keep developing it like that, I can someday, not yet, but someday, really do. I can see the Game Awards becoming a show that is on par with the Oscars in terms of its importance to the industry. Which, of course, means that they, again, as I mentioned, that just means voters are going to be crawling further up their own asses, but that's just what you get with respectability, I guess.
They need to bring back the Muppets. That's
really
one
do.
way.
Yeah, they need to bring back the Muppets, and Disney doesn't have any interest, to the point where they're closing down Muppets Vision 3D at Hollywood Studios, which should be it's dumb. It's just stupid. They're replacing Rock and Roller Coaster with a Muppets roller coaster, which I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. Doesn't mean you have to knock down the friggin' Muppets theater, dude. But anyway, so yes, my thoughts on the Muppets aside, let's move on now to talking about, well, frankly, what we can offer you here at RPG Fan if you are looking to support us in any way. And that is the things that we sell in our shop. So you can find our shop at www.rpgfan.com/shop. You can find all kinds of things in there. You can find mugs, you can find t-shirts, you can find, I constantly shout them out, the baby onesies. But you can also find our collaboration with Hyperplay RPG, the RPG Fan Review Card Collection. It's a showcase of nearly 300 of our review cards, as you can see on Instagram and our other social medias, including Blue Sky. So if you are looking for some way to support us, that is definitely the best way. Another way to support us is to keep listening to our podcasts, including this one. Our last episode, which feels like it was about 100 years ago thanks to scheduling shenanigans, we chatted about two big previews of two awesome games that are coming up, Avowed and Path of Exile 2. We are not the only podcast here at RPG Fan, though. Over at Retro Encounter, they just dropped the first part of a two-parter focusing on Dragon Quest III, and by complete and utter coincidence, I'm sure that this was not intended by Solosi, the HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest III got released a few weeks ago. What timing! It's just incredible timing. I'm sure that was not planned. We also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPG Fan's music podcast. Last week, the panel chatted about their RPG origin stories and the music that really stuck with them the first time they heard it and the first time they really got into RPGs. So really cool episode theme there. If you'd like to get in contact with us here at Random Encounter, you can do so by firing off a message to podcast@rpgfan.com. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, if you have ideas for discussion questions, anything at all you'd like to share with me, you can fire it off to there. If you'd like to send me an email personally, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com. And you can also find me on Blue Sky now at jonologan.bluesky, I guess bsky.social. I am not the only person on here with a social media presence. Gio, where can we find you online?
Yeah, I'm also on Blue Sky. You can find me at 10bstar, TENBI .bsky.com. I think that's how it goes. And you can also find me on Discord. I am also 10bstar on the RPG Fan Discord.
Cool. Tin, where can we find you online?
You can reach out to me at tin@rpgfan.com, and you can also message me on Discord. I'm literally named Tin there.
Lovely. And Clayton, where can we find you online?
I've just started Blue Sky. I'm incredibly inactive on it, though. I think I'm Onyx, ONYX, doomforge.bluesky.social.
Cool. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Help us get the word out there. If you are on Blue Sky, our episodes are posted every single week on the RPG Fan Blue Sky account. So, follow that and, comment on that. And maybe, I don't know, have we decided what it is yet? Is it retweet? Refleet? We still don't know. Honestly, they should just call them tweets. What's he going to do? Sue them? And FYI, this is a bit of I mentioned this in my last episode. This is a PSA for the next episode. It's going to be next Monday. So yeah, this episode was a week late because of the Game Awards, but we are picking it up immediately and getting back on track next week. So you are getting our big year ender focused entirely on the most anticipated games of 2025. So that's going to be 2 weeks of Random Encounter in a row. That is my holiday present to you. It's two presents of random under the tree. I mean, the holidays are a time to be thankful, and I am extremely thankful to everyone on this podcast for joining me today. Thank you so much, Clayton, Tin, Gio, for joining me, giving me your Friday night. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it.
Yay! We're happy to be here.
Yeah, I think it's my first time. And
oh, really?
First time. Yeah.
It's your first time on Random?
Yeah, it is.
Really
well, I should have mentioned that. I feel like I mentioned being thankful. Now I feel like a friggin' Grinch.
Oh, no worries at all. Okay.
I should have made a bigger deal about you showing up on the episode. Tin, thank you for coming on Random again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Yes, and Clayton and Gio, welcome to your first time on Random Encounter. You are always welcome here.
My goodness, I hope to be back. Yeah.
You'll never be back. Nope, not after this. Not if you embarrassed me publicly like this. My God. I'll never recover my composure. Anyway, folks, I hope you have a great night. And everyone out there watching the Game Awards, looking forward to whatever is coming up. Believe me, there's going to be so much coming up in 2025. We're going to be talking about it next week. But there's a ton available right now. I bet there's a ton in your backlog. So whatever you are playing, have fun.